In the 20 years that I've been on the crew, I have never encountered seas like that, let alone having to rescue someone in such close proximity to the rocks.
I was actually looking out of my window watching the three surfers in the water. The swell and the waves were really significant in the bay. I mean, the bay was like a washing machine.
I'd just been at the lifeboat station having a fitness test, and I just arrived home when my pager went off, so I had to come rushing back down here. I was reasonably relaxed coming down to the lifeboat station, actually, because I didn't think that there'd be a chance that we'd be putting the boat on the water. I wasn't actually expecting to be going out, to be honest with you.
I'm very lucky I live right by the station, so I was there pretty quickly and turned up. And the first thing I always do is assess where I'm going to launch the boat, because depending on the state of the tide and the sea, there are a number of options. And that's when I really saw close up just how rough it was.
The conditions were such that we needed to make sure that there was actually someone in grave and imminent danger before we even committed the boat to the water. So we had crew members scouring the surf line with binoculars.
It was a very difficult call for the LOM to make. We needed that little bit of time to make the correct decision.
Whilst we were trying to ascertain where this surfer was in the water, we could see someone running over, trying to get our attention in the distance. He was telling us that he was one of three, and two of which had made it ashore, but one of his friends was still out at sea, and he'd last seen her holding onto one of the swim buoys on the southern end of the beach. Knowing that there was a life at risk, the decision was made to launch the boat.
In my 5 years, that's definitely the edgiest sea I've ever driven into. Obviously a little bit of apprehension because I'd never been into a sea that bad, but also at the same time, when I kind of reflect back on it, I was amazed by actually how calm I was, and I think that's basically down to the great training I've had. And then also, you've got a lot of responsibility. You're putting these guys, you're sending them out into a very big sea, and you want to get them in there as safely as possible.
Once we'd reached the mouth of the bay, it was apparent that from a person on the cliff gesturing that this person had actually already left the bay. When we realised that she was out at sea, we had to make an assessment whether we thought that we were in a position and capable of actually being able to go out in the conditions that were outside of the bay itself.
My thoughts were the guys were very brave, because that was a very big sea. And I think at that point probably I thought, I'm glad I'm a tractor driver. They were going into something that was I'd not really seen before.
This is the only shout that I've been on when I've actually had to weigh up risk to rescue her. For a brief moment, my thoughts did turn to my crew. We've all got very young families, so it's a very tough decision to have to make, whether we continue or whether we go back to the safety of the bay and abort the rescue.
So I was obviously, as we all were, and especially the LOM, we're all concerned for their safety. But it was a really experienced crew. There were 3 helms on there, plus our training manager. So we couldn't have gone to sea with a better crew.
We initially couldn't see anything. The waves were really, really tall. The conditions were treacherous. The waves were probably some 3 to 5 meters tall and breaking, so quite long periods where we couldn't see anything. And one of the crew members did shout across that he'd thought he'd just seen either a head or a hand. So again, we stayed in position just for another wave or two, so that we could see if that was indeed a person before we committed to it. Luckily, we sighted them again, and it was clear that it was a person in the water, because they were getting swept towards the rocks quite quickly. So we had a very quick discussion on the boat, just to make sure that everyone was happy with what we were about to attempt. We got alongside her first time, luckily, and the crew very, very quickly pulled her into the boat, just in time for the next set, which bear down on us. They actually had to sit on top of her in the boat and lay her flat on the deck while we took the next set of waves. The waves were breaking over our bow, and my fourth crew member was just constantly shouting at the two crew to keep her down.
Fairly quickly it was decided that we'd do a net recovery, and so I went back up the slipway, and then the shore crew descended on the trailer and started to erect the net, get that prepared, because there was no way that we could have gone in and picked them up safely and had them reverse back onto the trailer, which is a normal procedure. The sea state was too high. That's something I've never done in real life. We've done it many times in practice. So, and it also, again, because of the circumstances, it was, quite unnerving, but it went very, very well. Well, at the time of entry back into the sea again, and because it was so rough, I was trying to keep the trailer straight, pointing out to sea, but it was being moved around a lot. So I was doing there was a lot of play with the steering wheel, trying to correct it, trying to straighten up to make it easier for them to come straight into. And it does get to a point with the tractor and the trailer where it can float, but you've got to try and keep some level of control. I just turn the headlights off to indicate to the helm that I'm ready and he's ready to approach, and then it's over to him, and he comes in, and the shore crew prepared everything extremely well. The net did its job, caught the bow of the boat, and then I looked to the helm for him to give me the signal, and then I just get out as quickly as possible.
The initial feeling back at station was one of disbelief of what we just had to endure, followed by immense pride. We were all so proud of each other. The whole station, we're one crew. Everyone did what we had to do in a very timely manner, from a textbook tractor launch to the actual rescue itself, and then the rigging of a net recovery. It needed everyone to pull together. And everyone did.
The feeling was amazing, actually. It really was, because, as I say, many of the shouts aren't sort of life-threatening, but this really was a life on the line here. And I think the sense of achievement for everyone. We had a good turnout of people, so people who were just helping, that actually weren't on the boat, shore crew, people were mucking in, everybody made a great contribution. And it was a fantastic feeling that you genuinely have saved a life.